probably see more than 10 people here. Anyway, my name's Shane Lee. I've been they hired me to be the Windows platform engineer at SaltStack in January 2015. I come from a Windows background. They thought it was easier to hire a Windows guy and teach him Linux than it was to convince a Linux guy to learn Windows or to work on Windows. That's why they hired me. I was a sysadmin with the Army, database administrator. I'm known as Twang Boy on GitHub, and I like to play guitar. I'm a country picker. I got a G&L. It's a Telecaster, basically. But, yeah. So, and this is Rob. I'll let him introduce himself.
I'm Rob Hilberding. I work for SaltStack Professional Services as a consultant trainer since November 2014. I came, I think 2 months before you or so. Anyhow, I worked for Fortune 500 companies as a sysadmin and other administrative roles. After that, I was doing consulting work for about 7 years for Alteris Semantic. Originally, I'm Dutch. That's why the name and a little accent. So I'm from the Netherlands. I moved to the US about 18 years ago. And I cook Dutch too. That's one of my things I like to do when I'm home. So,
right. Well, thanks. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about running Salt on Windows, deploying software, managing local users and groups, files, working with services, doing Windows Update from Salt. And then we have a few enterprise demos that we're going to show you. We now have the master running on Windows. We have Salt SSH on Windows. And then we also have, Rob's going to demonstrate some of the CIS compliance that we have on the enterprise. So this 2017-7 release and moving forward, we're really focusing on trying to get Windows to be a first-class citizen. It's very actively supported, but we haven't been able to get tests running. So we finally got those running now. So that's what I haven't been able to do a lot of feature releases for Windows and stuff in this release because we've been focused on getting our tests running. And this is good for Windows because the problems we've had in the past is we would, we'd tag a build for release, and then I'd go and build all the packages for Windows, and then the QA would test them, and we'd find all these things that were broken by PRs that people submitted against Linux that you don't know they're breaking against Windows. So having these tests running is going to be awesome for stability for Windows and maintaining that going forward. And then we're going to talk about the master on Windows. We talked about that stuff in the last slide. All right, so deploying software in Windows. Now, how many of you guys use WinRepo? You guys actually, yeah, that's like the first people to raise their hands in the whole conference. We've been asking this and nobody raised their hands. Okay, do you use the open or do you write your own?
We can write your own.
So you write your own. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about this. So it's kind of what WinRepo is it's a couple of GitHub repositories or a couple of repositories on our GitHub that have software definition files that tell Salt how to install a piece of software on your system, okay? And the way you set this up, on the master, you use a runner, Salt run, WinRepo update git repos, and that will pull the GitHub repositories down onto the master. And after you've done that, then you run on all the minions that you want to use the WinRepo, you do a package.refreshdb. That's the equivalent of doing, I think, a yum update or something. So we'll update the local repo from yum repositories or whatever, or apt. Okay? And then once you've done that, then all those software definition files are available, and you can install Firefox and Chrome, and you can install anything that's been configured. And the reason we put it up on the repo, it's kind of out of the box ready. Everything that you're downloading is coming off the internet. And if you want to have things that are local on your box and not going out to the internet, then you're going to have to edit those files and point them to local directories. And we'll talk a little bit about that. You can also use states to install using the package.install, just like you're on a Linux box doing package.install, okay?
Yeah, that's actually, sorry, if you think about it, using WinRepo, because, and as Shane will show, you see the ID there on the top, the 7-zip is the unique identifier. So think about this, you have a piece of software on Linux, which has a certain package name, you have an equivalent for Windows, nothing is going to stop you to write a WinRepo SLS file and give it the same ID as that Linux package name. At that point, you can do a package.install or installed and use the same name, and it will work on Windows and Linux.
Anyway, it's a way of simplifying. All right, so this is a software definition file, and when you're trying to build your own, sometimes this can get a little bit confusing, because Windows has to match up version names, and it goes off of the full name in the registry to try to match things up with the WinRepo. Okay, so there's a couple things you got to look out for. Does this thing work? All right, right there. So that name, you can name that whatever you want. This has to be exact, and you got to put the quotes around it, because YAML tends to drop the zeros. If it's a 17.0, then YAML will convert that to 17, or it drops, or 00, 17.00, it'll be 17.0, and it won't match. So putting those quotes around it is important. Also, this full name needs to match exactly what is in your add remove program. So when you're setting this up, you find a box, you install it, and then you look at what's there, and then you've got to type that exactly in right here in the full name. So that's kind of how it matches with WinRepo. So when you do a list packages, it's going to look in the registry, it's going to look for that full name, and then it's going to give you that name is what's installed. Does that make sense? So you'll know if it's been installed by Salt because it'll have a short name, whereas when you do a list package and it's just a piece of software that was already on the machine, it'll be that big full name that's shown there. Okay, that means it was installed with Salt. All right. Did I go back?
Yeah.
Okay, adding users and groups. So we've added a couple of things that are Windows specific in this. We have these, sorry, I can get my buttons all confused here. So we got these Win, they're preceded with Win. Okay, so you can set a home drive, you can set a profile, login script, and you can add a description. And you can add groups and stuff like you can on Linux. We can do file.manage, and we have some more Windows-specific things here, since permissions are quite a bit different in Windows than they are in Linux. We don't have the chmod thing, So we have this idea of you can set an owner, you can set win perms. There's also a win deny perms, so you can deny users access to directories. And then you can turn inheritance on and off. And you can even determine, is this going to apply to this folder or all these folders and subfolders and everything. Yeah. For the chmod stuff? I don't know. Yeah, I know. That's in that. I guess I'm not familiar with that.
That sounds like you're talking about share permissions?
Not in this. There might be something else. There might be another module for that. And if you have feature ideas, come talk to me. So maybe if that's not something that's there currently, we can add that. I think we can share stuff though. So, all right, we can manage files. Did I skip one? Yeah. Oh no. Okay, so this one basically just creates a file called config.ini, and those are the contents of it. You can also have it just copy a file. And then you can also work with those files. You can comment a line out. You can uncomment a line. You can do stuff like that. And you find those using a regex. So you have to write a little regex thing that'll find that line in the file, and then it'll find it and uncomment it or whatever. We also have file.recurse. That's in case you need to copy more than one file. It'll copy the entire directory off your master and put it where you need on your Windows box. We can also work with services. So when you're working with services in Windows, if you want to modify the service and change settings, right now that's only done using the module. We don't have a state for that. Linux, the way you modify services is with a file, right? You have like a config file or something somewhere, and you modify that file, and then you restart the service. Windows, you actually do it through the GUI. So you can do that through the module, but when you get into the state, all you basically have is that service running. Okay, so maybe that's another execution module we could add, is something that would allow us to modify using a state instead of just a one-off command. So now Windows Update. So this Windows Update module just interfaces with Windows Update on the local machine. And the easiest way that I've found to work with this is to do the list first to show you what needs to be installed. It's basically like clicking check for updates on the box, and then it'll return you a list of what's available. If you do summary equals true, then that'll give you a summary. There's 4 critical updates. There's this many software updates or driver updates or whatever. Okay, so it kind of gives you a summary. If you don't do summary equals true, it actually lists every update that is pending on the machine. So then after you do that and you know which ones you want, or if you want to just apply all of them, you can just set an install equals true and run it again. And then it will just install everything that listed in the previous run. Okay, so you can add filters and things to this. I just want to see the security updates or the critical updates, and once you've got that list refined to what you want, then you set it to install equals true, and then it'll go. You can also install just individual KB numbers if you know a specific update that you need to install, something you need to patch. And we do have states for that one as well. So you can send it a list of KB numbers, and those will get installed. Okay. There is a remove. There is a remove, but you know what? It doesn't work very good. It's like once they're in there, Windows likes to keep them. Yeah, so I do have a state here called clean, and it tries to uninstall one of the KBs that I install with my state, and it doesn't take it out. So
let's say that a high state's run, and one of the machines sees that the KB isn't installed. Will it actually install it and reboot?
it will install it. There may be some other options here that I didn't list about restarting if it needs a restart. Or it may be something that you have to put a state after this that depends on that, says if that was successful, then reboot. Yeah.
Yeah. It will come back in the output, in the return, like restart required.
It'll tell you it needs a reboot.
So you can potentially look at that, but as far as I know, it doesn't restart it for you automatically. Unless, of course, you configure your WA agent to restart if required. Then it will do it for you. And you can, I think that's on one of the next slides, where you can use the local group policy objects module and state to configure your complete WA agent. That's another way.
Yeah, so the next part of this is you can change the update settings themselves.
We have a question here.
Oh, sorry. You had a question?
So is there any WSUS integration, or are you always downloading from the internet?
Well, so the question is, do we have any WSUS integration? The integration with that is using local group policy objects, where you would configure your WA agent and tell it, hey, get my updates either from my WSUS server or get it from the internet.
It's so whatever the box is configured to do.
We are not replacing WSUS functionality. We just tell it, do it, and update it. Yes.
Right, so part of your settings would be to set that stuff up and make the registry entry of the group policy. So as of Windows Server 2012 R2, you can no longer set these settings from the command line or from PowerShell. They are read-only. Okay, so in 2016, you have to do it with group policy. So we do have a group policy module that lets you set local group policy on these machines. When you start getting into this, it can be very hairy, because look at the names of these keys. It's like the full sentence of what is in the group policy editor, okay? And then the answer, the value for it, is also a big, long sentence, okay? So it's kind of a pain, and it's, the capitalization and the spelling, and your hand jamming all this in.
Yeah.
But once you get it there, then you're done,
Yeah, when I do a lot of stuff with this, I go in the local, group policy editor, It's like, okay, what do I want to change? Okay, what are the exact values? And you have to have them exact where I can pick from. And then you write your states.
Okay, any other questions or? Yeah.
Maybe this is an offline topic, but what about internationalized versions of Windows where this shows up in a different language? Are you matching against those? Or
Yeah, you can. So wasn't there that option where you can change the language?
So yeah, there is an option to set the language, but it bases it off the ADML files on your box. So if you have another language, I think you can just type them in. I don't have an internationalized version of Windows to test this on. So you want to let me know how that goes?
I'm looking forward to doing some deep dive.
Okay. All right. Otherwise, you may be able to set it to English and do the English versions, but that might be hard to kind of find the names if you're looking at the German or French or whatever it is.
Follow up offline.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So now we're just going to demo a little bit. This is a master on Windows. Just to show you that it works. It's proof. All right, so this is a 2016 server, and it's got, I have the master installed on it, and I have a local host minion on it. And then it's also reaching out and connected to a 2012 R2 minion. So I got two minions and a master here, so I'm just going to. What's that? No, I just had the command thing expanded so you can see it. Is it big enough?
Yep.
Tried to make it big. All right, so we're just going to do a test.ping, huh? Just to see if we're up. Wait for it.
Is it only in command line or even PowerShell?
You can do PowerShell, I think. I think you can run it in PowerShell. You want to try it? All right, so they come back. And it's quite a bit slower in Windows right now, especially when you add a master on top of it. It's the way Windows forks processes as compared to Linux is quite a bit different, and it tends to be slower. It's something we need to optimize. Let's try PowerShell. It's going to be small, though. You guys see that? Can I make it bigger? How do you do that? Can you?
Yeah, it's with.
It's a Control Plus, right? Yeah, no, it's not.
There.
Yeah, so, and it does some nice coloring for you. It thinks salt is a command. All right, we can do some grains. Just to prove we're on Windows here. And my VMs are all kind of resourced out because I'm running 4 of them on my box.
There we go.
All right, so we're both Windows boxes. I've got some states in here. So let's look at what I got. Okay, so there are a couple of eccentricities, and these are differences with the command line on Windows versus on Linux. So you notice I just put a star, right? I didn't have to quote it. Like in Linux, you have to put quotes around it. And that you don't have to do that in Windows. In fact, if you do single quotes, it doesn't like single quotes from the command line in Windows. PowerShell might, I don't know. I'll check that real quick. But so and then when you're in Linux, your file roots is a slash, a single slash. In Windows, it's csalt. Okay, so that's kind of the base of what the minion, what salt thinks is the file roots for. Okay, when you do a slash, that's where it's going to go. And where the file root's default is serve salt on Linux, it's csalt serve salt. Okay, so everything is kind of based out of that salt directory. You can still get to the other directories, but it's just, that's kind of the default. So all of my states that I have are in serve salt demo. So there's a list of all the ones I was going to show you. Not show you all these, unless we we have a ton of time, but let's do a user add. So we'll do a, let's try single quote. See what it does. State.sls and demo.user add. Make that big so it's there. So it's just going to add a test user for us to mess around with. And all these states I have up on our little site for our class. They were telling us to upload all their stuff. So all these are up there. And they wouldn't let us upload text files or SLS files or zips. So it's a zip file with a doc extension. So just delete the doc, and then it's a zip file, and then you'll have all these state files and stuff for you to mess around with. So it looks like PowerShell doesn't care about a single slash or a single apostrophe or whatever. All right. So let's do I can't remember what let's do a file manage then next. This is just going to create that one file with some stuff in it. How's everybody doing? Good? Enjoying the conference? Good. There we go. Okay. So it added one new file. And then we're gonna comment a line out on that file. You can work with the registry and stuff too. I don't have the permissions set up yet in the registry like I do in the file, so you can't set perms yet, but that's something I have on my roadmap to add. All right, so we remmed out one line on this config file. I was going to dir that. You want to try the LGPO one? See how that one works? It takes a little longer, though. That's why LGPO. So this is configuring when update. Guess maybe I ought to show you that it works, huh? Before we run that, we'll look at the Windows Update settings here. So nothing's configured. You see it's all not configured, right? So we're going to apply this state. This one takes a little while to run. This module actually came from a community member. It's a 6,000 line module. It is a beast. He really wanted local group policy. All right. So it looks like that finished. Now the weird thing about this, GPedit, you can't just hit F5 and refresh. You have to close it and re-go into it and drill down. So now you can see we've got automatic updates enabled, and we've set a schedule time every day, every Saturday at 5, and we're going to install updates for other Microsoft products. We also did recommended updates is enabled, and I think there was one more up in this directory here. Select when feature updates are received. And I wanted to show you one thing about this state here. So serve salt demo LGPO. There's one thing I wanted to show you about this. I had to put some Jinja in this. When you're dealing with group policy, you know how Windows always adds stuff from release to release, right? So I had to put a line of Jinja that down there says that if grains OS release is 2016 server, then we're also going to do that. Because if you don't put that in there, then it says, couldn't apply this group policy because you didn't set this setting. So when you set these settings, you don't just turn it on and enable it. You have to like set every setting that's underneath it if it's in there. So that's what that's doing. And it'll only apply on the 2016 server. When it runs on the 2012, it won't do that part, and so if you're supporting from 2008 on up, you're going to have Ginja all over in these things. So, any questions on the master on Windows? Yeah?
Actually, it's not about that.
Oh.
Trigger happy before you said.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
How low can you go? You mentioned the changes and idiosyncrasies from 2K12 R2 up.
Go down to 2008. Yeah, anything that's supported by Microsoft, we try to support. It'll run on 2003, but a lot of stuff won't work. And in fact, the further down the road we get, I don't know how much will run right now in 2003. So anything that's reached end of life, we pretty much, we don't feel if you want to pay us, then we'll we'll help you.
Yeah,
you know?
then we do the same as Microsoft does. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, we can still support you if you.
Same policy.
Yeah.
Those are connected to
This
Enterprise.
does the master. The
master.
master. Okay.
We're working on it.
We don't know. We've never tried it. It's kind of a new thing. I don't know that anybody's really using master on Windows that they're buying
Yeah.
from us. There are people using it in the open that they've compiled it and built it themselves, and that's kind of how we got this. And you know, we don't support it, but you know, that's why this is Enterprise. If you're going to use it and you want support from us, then we made it Enterprise.
Yeah, actually, then we had a little chat about that, you and I, about like, and we looked at the eAPI plugin, which connects your master to the Enterprise server, and you're like, yeah, it might work, because after all, it's all Python, you know. So,
It's an egg file.
It's an egg file.
I
so
installed it and installed, but I didn't go much further than that. So we don't know.
we don't know yet. Let me put it this
Yeah.
way.
Installed on a pip, right? Or is there an exe that's been crafted?
So I do have an exe, but it's Enterprise. To install master on Windows?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want the exe, you want it to install and set the service and do all that stuff for you, then that's Enterprise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we have 15 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the question is, do you have modules, PowerShell scripting, and desired state? Yes, we do. Yeah, they're there.
So the approach we took on that was there are things that Salt does really well, and there are things that desired state does really well. So the desired state's awesome, but their push-pull configuration is kind of slow, where Salt's really fast in pushing those out. So the approach we took on it was, well, write your desired state stuff in PowerShell and put it up, and then let Salt push those down and apply those. Does that make sense? And there's still work that needs to be done on it, but it basically works now. You can put up a state or a DSC PowerShell script, and you can push it down and apply it.
So also to clarify, because we're talking enterprise here, and of course all modules open. All the modules are all open, all the states. So there's no specific modules or states right now which are only specific to enterprise.
No, yeah, this is all open.
This is all open.
And the modules are. So if you want to do DSC, you can do DSC. You can do it on a Linux box with a Windows minion, and it works just fine. So if you look at the DSC module, there's some documentation in there. You can see what the status is, and you can query some things. It has the, I built it a year ago, so I can't remember all the details, but it was basically have to create the MOF file first and then apply the MOF file. Is that right? Something like that. So there are three major functions. The first one creates the MOF, the second one applies it, and then the third one does both of those steps in one. So you know, if you want to just apply it and do it, then you run that third one, and you know, it's basically a file.managed and then apply it. It's kind of what it is. Yeah.
So since you're controlling patches via Windows, how would you patch your master in Windows?
You'd have a minion on it like this, a local minion, and you just run your commands to it.
You would have to do it first before like group stuff.
Well, no, well, because it's the patches, or you're talking the KB numbers from Windows Update. Yeah, your master doesn't have to be patched first, because it's just like another Windows box on the network. It, you know, as far as Windows is concerned, it doesn't know it's a master, right? Okay. Anything else?
Want to do SSH? Oh no, am I?
Yeah, you were next.
Oh, I'm next. Oh, I'm next.
I'm going to kill these to save up resources. All right, then those will die. So there's your...
All right. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit about what this is Enterprise, about security and compliance. I mean, we had 2 classes about that in the last 2 days. I don't know if any of you were in there. I think I recognize some people. So I'm going to show you quickly what it gives you and how you would potentially remediate, yes? And this is Enterprise Console. So, let me log in. Good. So,
Not now. Just do that.
okay. Is this, how do you make it bigger again? Control plus?
Control plus, yeah. Keep going. Oh, that's good.
That's good.
That's right. Y'all see
Okay.
that?
So, is this better, or I'm going to play eye doctor. Can you see it better now? Or can you see it better now? Dark or light? That's your option, okay? So, let's keep it dark. Oh. So, one of the things you have in Enterprise, in the file system, we have predefined, and we based that on Hubble. How many of you heard about Hubble Stack? Used it? Good. So, we have a couple of things we added in there in Enterprise that we are providing you, or I'm going to provide you with more profiles. So, for instance, we have a CIS profile, which is going to scan also for Windows 2008, 2012, and 2016 to see if you are CIS compliant. Yes? It's very simple to set up. There is 2 predefined jobs, and you can edit those. Yes? So, to show you, it's nothing else than YAML files, which uses WinSecEdit. Because if you look at the CIS benchmarks guides, a lot of the remediation takes place by using local group policy objects. So that's what we're doing here too. But I hate that. That's why I hate touchpads. You know. So there is 2 jobs defined, which is by default is called enable compliance, which will copy over the Hubble modules and any other custom modules we have for that and make sure that those profiles are there on those systems. After that you're done, you do nothing else than target your system and run compliance audit. Yes? And since we are kind of lack of time, and because it will run a couple of minutes, I already did it before, so I will show you the results. So I had one here, and I ran a compliance audit on it. So, there we go. So what I will see out of my minions, 37, oh, there we go. Okay.
Want me to run it?
Yeah. I'm a Mac user, so. He makes me do Windows now. So anyhow, if you click on this, the nice thing of it is you see all those CIS benchmarks. And if I click, I only have one. Oh man, this drives me nuts. And if you click on any of those, it will show you the systems which are not compliant. Yes? So if I had a whole bunch of systems, a whole list, I can either select them here one by one, or I can just do a full select and list everything. Now, The next thing what you would do directly from the report, and I have to make it a little smaller. So I have my list selected, I go here, and I can select my job, which is in this case CIS Windows. It's going to make it CIS compliant. Now how do we do that? You create a state, and of course I would create multiple states for that, just not one. Because actually, at one time I did a full 2008 compliance state, which I think was about 3,000 lines in the state file, so I had to chuck it up in different sections. But here, we use the LGPO set, yes, in this case to set it enforce password history, maximum password age, and then I like to do a GP update force to get that applied right away. So the nice thing, what we said about that, if you go back to the target, the Windows servers, there is multiple ways to get to here, but this is one of them. Like I can do this, go to my report here. There we go. Go here, and again, select my system. Execute that job, CIS. Oh yeah, I need to make, this is one of the things there. And then I can still do a test this through, or I can just execute it. What the matter is here? Oh. Okay. I gotta end this before. There. Okay, it started it. And then you can wait for the results. One of the other things we have now in Enterprise, if I go to the targets here, Windows servers, and I select one of those minions, I can see here directly all the grains of that, and I can go to the job returns and see the actual job returns for that particular minion where it was. Okay. So it's a quick idea what we added into Enterprise, especially the reporting part for the compliance, and then how you can directly, out of the report view, select your targets and execute jobs. Any questions? Then it's back to Shane for Windows SSH. It's not SSH, you know that.
Okay, the last thing that we wanted to show you was Salt SSH on Windows. We had a customer that needed this, strangely enough. So what I have here is I have a Ubuntu master, and I have a Windows box that doesn't have Salt on it. It's a Windows 10 box, and we're going to do a Salt. Actually, probably need to sudo, huh? Sudo. Oh, great, I've lost my connection. Let me look at my.
Did you shut down everything?
No, I shut down the other one. See, it's up. Maybe the IP changed. So it's 21 now. It changed the IP address.
Oh, okay.
All right. Did I get the right? 10.63.1.21. 10.63.1.21. Am I still connected? Huh. Well, you can imagine how awesome it would be.
Okay.
If it actually worked. No, it does work.
It does
Okay,
work.
okay, I can do it. It's just it's going to be super small because I can't make the Ubuntu screen big. This is how do you make it big in Ubuntu? Oh,
Oh, there you go.
can you see that, kind of?
Yep.
All right, so Salt SSH,
Make your window.
make it what? It won't.
Oh,
I'll
it
show you.
won't.
This is what it does.
Well, that's okay.
That's why I had a Z shell, like an SSH thing. Anyways, so Salt SSH Win10. Then we're just going to do a test.ping to see what happens. Oh, I got sudo. Sorry, rookie mistake. The Windows guy trying to do Linux stuff.
I think you need to.
There we go.
Okay, I think you need to explain to them it's not SSH.
Okay, yeah, so it's not actually using SSH. It's actually using WinRM. But it's the same command. So it's salt SSH like you're on a Linux box using salt SSH.
You have a question?
But it's imitating it with WinRM.
Yeah, is that still having to copy over like a temp directory or just like a salt SSH?
Yeah, so it copies over a salt thin, basically, and puts it in a salt remote. So if you were to look at that, we can do it. Salt SSH, Win10, dir. We're going to do a dir of the root. Dir is not available. Did I do it wrong?
Yeah, command dot run.
Dir C colon. Maybe I got to do that.
No, there is not a module.
Oh, command.run. Sorry, guys. All right, so you see that salt remote? That's where all the files reside. It doesn't look like a salt installation. There's just some other things in there. It basically brings a little thin Python over and it puts it there once, but it doesn't run like an agent. Okay, it just sits there. And then when you need to run stuff, it like launches an instance of it and runs the command you want and then closes back down. It's kind of a salt call, basically, and then it returns back the results. It is kind of, yeah.
So then similar to like the normal salt in SSH or daemon on Windows, it'll have its own Python environment and everything in that directory to execute Python?
I don't know.
You need to install Python separate for that.
No. That gets packaged and sent down by the master. So that is the enterprise portion. We don't give you the thin. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right. And so there are some limitations to this right now. This is kind of alpha, but we're just showing you that we're making progress on this. So you can run basic. You can run pretty much anything from command line, but anything that requires anything from the file roots right now, like a state or like package.install with the WinRepo, the way it's supposed to work is it's supposed to package the files it needs, sends it down, and then launches it. But right now, for some reason, it's not packaging those down and send them down. So you can get information, you can run some command.run stuff, but that's about it right now. Okay. But that stuff, those are being developed, and hopefully we'll have some more in the next release. I don't have anything else. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah, there's a script you got to run to open the SMB. Was it SMB?
Yeah.
Maybe it's no. The script you run opens. It sets up the SSL. I think for WinRM to work, you got to have the certificates store set up on the minion. So there's a script you have to run on the minion to get it, so that you can do this. Yeah.
Is that the
Yeah, that's part of it, but then it sets up a certificate store and does some other stuff so that you can authenticate securely. You can roll back, you can do it with an older version of PyWinRM, but it just ignores the certs. So if you want to do it securely, you gotta set up the certificate store and stuff.
Is that the PowerShell script built for the Windows SaltCloud stuff?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, you know where that is? We can find it.
SaltCloud on Windows,
Yeah, if you go to the SaltCloud part,
basically the same. When you do
we're
SaltCloud,
using the same script. There's a PowerShell script there which opens up the ports for either WinExe or WinRM.
So with SaltCloud on Windows, you can either use WinExe or WinRM to spin up your SaltCloud. And that's basically the WinRM script that opens that stuff up. Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, thank you guys for coming. Be sure and leave feedback in our class and enjoy the rest of SaltConf.